But also, this is assuming C0R0 stuff. As soon as you start considering constellations, things change. Should I make one of these of my own? I'm kind of down. Fuck it. Not worth getting. Use the same tiers now. Because, like, in my eyes, for something to be actually useful for meta players, I think all 5 of these categories should be merged together. Alright, so Venti goes here, Flea goes here, Child goes here. Jolie actually does make it here, I think. I need to think about this a bit more. Where would I put Kazuha? Honestly, I'm putting him in here. Then the Raiden one is gonna ruffle some feathers. Literally only because of Hyper Bloom, she goes here. That's just not true. Okay, describe me the state of one account where Kazuha is actually worth getting. If you don't have Shilonen, well, you could just get Shilonen instead of Kazuha. Grouping and buffing, you're just describing what he does. You're not describing an account where getting him is optimal. I just don't think there is an account right now where getting Kazuha is optimal. Biggest argument you can make right now is Neuvillette, but it's not better than getting Llama. In 2024 it was. A character being in this category doesn't mean they were good in 2024. It means they're a character that is good, but definitely does not feel like they came out in 2025. Alright, like this is where Neuvillette goes. This is where Arlecchino goes. Right in 2024 worthy when Kuki exists. The thing is, for Abyss level content, Kuki meets the DPS check, so the healing that Raiden doesn't have actually matters. But for Siege and Onslaught level content, there is going to be a lot of situations where Raiden meets a DPS check that Kuki doesn't. So the difference between the two is actually much bigger in Siege and Onslaught, in my opinion. No way you pull Raiden just for Hyper Bloom. I don't think the characters that are here are characters you should go out of your way to get. You generally think that Kazuha fell off because so much boss content. It's not because of so much boss content. It's just they keep releasing alternatives to supports. They keep releasing alternatives to DV. That paired with grouping mattering less and less just makes Kazuha just not worth getting. Why is Venti higher than Kazuha? Because in tailored content, he will be the best character. He's not good. You shouldn't get these characters that are here, right? The characters that are here are not characters you should get. They're characters that you will put on your team when you're fighting the tailored content for them, if you have them. Not characters that are worth spending primo gems on. If content is AoE, then Kazuha is better than Shilonen and Sucrose. For whom? Anyone that uses those two? That's not, like, give me a fucking example. For Neuvillette, there is no difference between having a grouper and not having a grouper in a Neuvillette team. Arlecchino, why would Arlecchino be the character you use when you're in content that requires AoE? Theater, you can play Lynette in Theater and it doesn't fucking matter. Theater is not a question of how strong the characters are. It's a yes or no of do you have enough characters to enter, and if you do, you will be able to clear it. So grouping has no value. It's not that grouping has no value, it's that when grouping has value, you generally aren't playing characters that want Kazuha on the team. It would be possible if, like, all 3 of the Stygian bosses had some mechanic that required AoE, but, like, that's not gonna happen. Why is Venti better than Kazuha in tailored content? Because Venti's grouping is so much better than Kazuha's grouping. But again, right, like, there's no real difference between these two categories. You know what? Fine. Let's just remove this category altogether. If that's gonna make you guys happy, I'll just remove the category. We'll put everyone here, right? But just understand that this outcome is entirely a result of your decisions, Chad, okay? This is a result of what you have made me do. This is your fault. Please no, can we go back? It's too late. It's too late. We can't go back from this. Anyways, yeah. Okay, Yulon probably makes it into the 2024 worthy. I was gonna put 90% of the cast in not worth. I mean, yeah, because most characters aren't worth getting. If you're pulling for optimal things, there are characters that are optimal, and the characters that aren't optimal are not optimal. So if what you care about is pulling for optimal stuff, all those characters that are not optimal aren't worth getting. All the primos you spend on getting them are primos that could be saved for future characters instead. Most characters will go in here. If you want to make an honest pull value tier list, the reality is that the difference between a character that's completely dogshit and a character that's not that good is insignificant. Both characters are not worth getting. Both characters will not improve your account. Both characters have effectively 0 pull value. Kinesha's like top 10 DPS. Okay, but you don't need 10 DPS. You only need 3. Realistically, if you want to make sure that you have teams that are tailored towards most types of content that can be thrown at you, you only need 5. You're never really going to need more than 5 different carries. Kinesh over Neuvillette? I disagree. 2 reasons. 1, Neuvillette is just better than Kinesh. But 2, and more importantly, stealing from Skirk's teams is less bad than stealing from Mawika's teams. Stealing from Mawika's teams kind of inherently makes a character dog shit. Because if you're pulling for meta, if you're trying to optimize your stuff, no character that requires characters that should be used in a Mawika team will ever be worth getting. Doesn't each 5e pass a Neuvillette check? It passes the pre 6.0 Neuvillette check. It sure is fucking passing the Loma Inefa DPS check though. Versus dog shit. Which character does Verissa take from Mawika's teams that absolutely needs to be used for Verissa to be at the level where she's considered powerful? Mawika, she doesn't need Mawika though. Eon-san doesn't need to be be used in a Moika tier. Like, Versa's still over 100k with Changeling. Versa won't make the highest tier, though. Don't get me wrong. Rename S tier to Moika? No, because there's going to be quite a few characters in here. Anyways, Sino is, yeah, good one. Nilo's kind of interesting. I think it's just, I'm not sure. Potential man. Nilo isn't potential man, though. Because, like, yeah, I think Nilo's more in the 2024 worthy. Loma's a real potential man? No. Loma's not potential man either. You'll see. Nahida, not worth getting. And the Kavi realization has made me decide that Baiju is not worth getting either, honestly. Fuck that. Neuvillette is potential man. For sure. No, that's not actually true. Neuvillette is not potential man. Neuvillette is 2024 worthy. He kind of fits the, like, basic meme of potential man, but here potential man is being used to describe a character that, like, is currently using supports that aren't particularly contested by other very strong teams. Effectively, right, it's you can play this team when your other two teams are Skirk and Moika. And it's real fucking hard to do that with Neuvillette. Maybe I should split the remaining category for the characters that are actually important part of the best teams between the most important and the least important ones. Because, like, with the current tiers we have, Farina would make it here, but I feel like having Farina in the same tier as Malika is kind of wrong. But I guess if we're saying that there's no practical difference between a character like Kanish and a character like Child, because both of them are no on the yes-no question, should I get them? You could argue that the same thing applies on the other end of the spectrum. There's no practical difference between a character that is an important part of the best teams and a character that's a less important part of the best teams. They're part of the best teams, so it's a yes on the yes-no question, should I get them? There we go. That's the name of our tier. These are the perfect names. So yes for Shenhe because of Skirk. No. Bombi suggested to separate DPS and supports. Meh. Yeah, like Shenhe is like a situational 2% DPS increase. Like she brings you less value than getting one more substat roll on your Skirk's artifacts. Anyways, Arlecchino goes in the 2024 worthy. Maybe she sneaks into the potential man tier because of her team versatility. I think she does. She steals supports. All of her good teams steal supports. However, you get to choose which team you steal supports from because she has a lot of different, like, ways to build a team, and they require stealing from a different team. Isn't that the same as Neuvillette? No, because Neuvillette always wants to steal Farina from Skirk. Arlecchino doesn't always want to steal Bennett from Moika. Does Arlecchino even work next to Siege and Onslaught? Yeah. You can use her here, you can use her here. Probably don't really want to use her against Drake, but you still can. You can do double Hydro Arlecchino. It's gonna be fine against Drake. Overload with Fischl? No. You don't have enough electro damage on that team. How is she supposed to beat the Trooper at 60% res? It doesn't last for that long if you have enough on the team. But honestly, you can also probably just brute force this shit. They nerfed the shield a lot. You can probably brute force it in Overload. Anyways. Milani goes in potential man. I think the potential man tier will also include the supports that are low demand that the carries in potential man can use. I think this is it. Can you please explain Llama and Flynn's placement? Sure. On release, Llama is actually looking to be strong enough that she will be the third best team in the game after Maui and Skirk. Like, Llama Hyperbloom is gonna be there, right? Like, I'm getting 115k-ish DPS with fairly conservative assumptions. If you actually min-max the gameplay, you can probably get 125, 130. Right? Because the large majority of the team DPS is coming from Hyperbloom, and slight rotation optimization on Hyperbloom can actually mean like 4, 5, 6 more Hyperblooms, and all of those Hyperblooms are hitting for like 50k. I don't understand the 2024 worthy tier. They're basically characters that are going to be part of your best team options, but that are like omega replaceable. Like, if they released a character that did something similar to what they do in 2025, they would be significantly better. Because like right now, actually, all 4 of these characters are there because of Llama, by the way. Because right now, the best third team in the game is pretty much, in my opinion, Llama, once she's out. But Llama has multiple team options, right? You can do Llama with Neuvillette, you can do Llama Hyperbloom, like focus on Hyperbloom damage, and you can do Llama Nilo. And these are the units that you use in those teams. But also, this is assuming C0R0 stuff. As soon as you start considering constellations, things change. Llama has access to 0 good early constellations. No character in Llama's teams has useful early constellations. Maybe you could say that Neuvillette does in the Neuvillette Llama teams, but the Neuvillette Llama teams don't have that much damage from Neuvillette himself, right? This is pre-nerf, so we would have to actually change a couple things. It's not actually 125k. But like, you can see that Neuvillette himself was 30% of the team DPS, right? So getting a Neuvillette constellation in that team does fucking jack shit, man. I'll be count that as 112k. Yeah, this was pre-nerf with R1 battle pass weapons on your characters. This But yeah, I haven't updated my calcs for this. I should probably do that today. Why is Flynn's the only male character in the top 2 tiers? Is that true? That is true. That's crazy. It's because all the good male characters are 4 stars. That's why. I mean, I say that, but really, it's kind of just Bennett, but it is what it is. Where do you expect Columbina to be? I kind of expect Columbina to take Llama's place here and knock Llama down here. Why? Because I expect Columbina teams to make Llama teams better, but also Flynn's teams. And I expect that once you get there, you want a Columbina team, but it can either be a Flynn's team or a Llama team. Or a team for another character that gets released before or after Columbina. Maybe Nefer. Who knows? Since Llama's mainly focused on bloom damage, do you think Nefer could be a completely different DPS that doesn't need Llama? No. Llama's not focused on bloom damage. She has a kit that lends itself well to focusing on either bloom damage or lunar bloom damage, right? When you're an Ascendant Gleam, your blooms do less damage, your lunar blooms do more, but also, her burst also applies to lunar bloom damage, not just to normal bloom damage. Why is Verena top 1? The tiers aren't ordered. You guys want me to order the tiers? I could. I don't mind. Sure. Leave it at that, and there you go. I've ordered them. Honestly, the only reason I have Mawika above Escoffier is because if you start a new account, you'd rather get Mawika first over Escoffier first, because it'll require waiting for a while to build a Skirk team. You need to wait for an Escoffier rerun, a Skirk rerun, and a Farina rerun, right? Whereas with Mawika, you can still get a pretty solid Mawika team, but like even if Citlali doesn't get a rerun immediately. Isn't Inefa more valuable than Flynn's? I suppose she is. Yeah, that's fair. Which will be stronger? Flynn's plus Inefa bundle or Llama teams? So the thing about Llama teams is that all of her good teams require at least one other 5-star. It's just that because she has a bunch of different teams, she'll be able to fulfill that other 5-star condition on a lot of different accounts. But for a new account, you don't have that other 5-star. So she's not as good, right? Llama has many teams. Yeah, you can use Llama as a driver for a Hyperbloom damage focus team. You can use the Llama plus Inefa support core for hydro carries, or you can use Llama in a Nilo team. But all of those team archetypes require other 5-stars, and most of them see a decent upgrade from getting a second other 5-star. And they're 3-cost baseline teams. Right, the Hyperbloom best team is going to be Singto, Raiden, Yelan. The best 2-cost version is going to be Kuki Yelan. The best 1-cost version is going to be Kuki Cope. The Nilo team obviously doesn't work without Nilo, and then wants a healer, and you're better off with Baiju or Kokomi. But if you don't have them, you will be fine with Kabe. But it outright doesn't work at 1 cost, right? Like, you need Nilo to make the team work. And then for hydro carries, well, shit, that's a 4-cost team baseline, man. You need Llama, Inefa, Farina, plus your hydro carry. You can do it with Raiden instead of Inefa too, at least. So at least there's that. That's nice. It's not gonna be bad, but yeah. But the best unit you can use there is Raiden, which is also a 5-star. If you've ever played Nebula Hyperloop with Kuki, you'll know it feels like shit to be forced to stay melee range.
Goose on the loose!
Yeah.
Goose on the loose!
Goose on the loose!